Superintendent's report, please.
Yes, the first item on our agenda is the attorney's report. I will turn the agenda over to Mr. Capuccio.
Thank you. Regarding student residency, minor issues have surfaced. I'd like to bring to the board at this time. Student due process matter one has arisen into mediation. Was arranged in his office attempted to mediate to resolution, but it failed. So we believe this time the parent is filing due process action against us. Keep the board aware of that because it will most likely be expedited with Administrative Law Judge to the student soon. I know this is the rights matter this time. General construction, a few problems have arisen regarding the fire alarm system in the Alexander School. We're attempting to expedite a resolution of this with the contractor, through my office and Mr. Kelly. Basically, I've also communicated with Mr. Fitzgerald, the Township solicitor, regarding the decision on permit fees for our contractor. Although Mr. Fitzgerald was on vacation at the time of this board meeting, I was contacted to dig it back to me and to try to respond to our objection to these fees, which the Township is trying to charge the school district same taxpayer dollars. It makes no sense in the art. It's a resolution that the statute is out of the way. It says the municipality should not have to charge the school district anything regarding those fees. Nothing regarding personnel at this time. This is handled generally by administration. I think I will this evening. Questions?
Thank you, Mr. Capuccio. Any board members have any questions of our solicitor at this time? Thank you. Let's move on.
Item 2 is a resolution to accept, modify, or reject the harassment, intimidation, and bullying report presented to the board on July 28, 2014, for the reporting period of June 14 through July 23, 2014.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to accept the harassment, intimidation, and bullying report that was presented to this board on the 28th of July, 2014, for the reporting period June 14, 2014 through July 23, 2014? Please. Any board discussion? Any public comment? May I have a roll call?
Mr. Dees? Yes. Mr. Finer?
Yes.
Mrs. Nelson? Mrs. Avery?
Yes.
Mr. Carmen?
Yes.
Mrs. Cordero?
Yes.
Mr. Hucker?
Yes. Thank you. Let's move to curriculum instruction, please.
Thank you, President Hubbard. As the board is aware, the last several years, and certainly a big push the past year and this summer, we have been working on the transition to the Common Core State Standards, which were adopted by New Jersey along with many other states in the country, and the assessment that will be implemented for the first time this year known as the PARC, the Partnership to Assess College and Career Readiness. In your board packets that went home on Friday, you each received the resources that were used during the training this summer. I'm very proud to say that all of our workshops were delivered by our curriculum supervisors along with our teaching and learning facilitators. They've been working in this area. So the materials that you have in the area of ELA, or English Language Arts, it's a similar presentation for grades 3 to 8. In language arts, reading, writing, there's a continuum. So some skills are similar over time, but become increasingly more challenging, whether it be the complexity of the test. It moves from writing that is more typical and familiar to people to argumentative writing that is done in the upper grades. So one presentation was able to cover varying grade levels. We did group the staff, grades 3 to 5 teachers in certain workshops and grades 6 to 8 teachers in other workshops. In addition to that, there was training in the area of mathematics. And mathematics tends to have a curriculum that is more specific to grade level. Although the skills may build upon one another, there are different skills in different grade levels. So for these areas, you have packets representing the various grades. One for grade 3, one for grade 4, another one for grade 5, because there are distinctions there. There was also training for grades 6 through 8. Additionally, because the PARC assessment needs to be taken by the students using different technological tools. One of the workshops this summer was for iPads. And I'm not sure if this went home in the board packet. If it did not, I have copies this evening. It was a very specific workshop, not only because of part, but to help our students use these technologies on a daily basis. And then finally, we received a set of handouts that show the general presentations that were made to staff about the park in general. What makes it different from previous assessment skills and knowledge, commonly known as ASK. Probably the best two generalizations I can make about this transition are, number one, that the Common Core state standards and the park that assess those standards are more rigorous than the prior standards and the prior assessments. And then number two, the ability to use technologies in responding to everything from multiple choice questions to open-ended questions are also a change in what we are doing. So this provides by the calendar of each skill. It's something parents might be interested in also, because then you know ahead of time what is coming up in the area of math. Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Technology. Resolution to approve the cash and secretary's report for the month of July 2014. Item 6. This will be the last year of this agreement after students expect to graduate by the end of the year. Item 9. Galloway Township Public School District for special law enforcement officers who work as school resource officers in the district. Thank you. Can I have a motion to approve items 1 through 9 inclusive under finance? Meetings.
cooperative purchasing and pricing agreements for its administration. And whereas the Educational Information and Resource Center, otherwise known as EIRC, hereinafter referred to as the lead agency, has offered voluntary participation in a cooperative pricing system for the purchase of goods and services. Whereas on August 25th, 2014, the governing body of the Galloway Township Board of Education in the County of Atlantic and the State of New Jersey duly considered participation in a cooperative pricing system for the provision and performance of goods and services. Now therefore be it resolved as follows. Title: This resolution shall be known and may be cited as the cooperative pricing resolution of the Township, the Galloway Township Board of Education. Authority: Pursuant to the provisions of New Jersey Statute Title 40A, the school business administrator is hereby authorized to enter into a cooperative pricing agreement with the lead agency. Contracting unit: The lead agency shall be responsible for complying with the provisions of the local public schools contracts law and all other provisions of the revised statutes of the state of New Jersey. Effective date: This resolution shall take effect immediately upon passage.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to approve item number 14 under finances cooperation, please? Thank you. Any board discussion? Public comment? Can I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Days?
Yes.
Mr. Carmen?
Yes.
Mrs. Avery? Mrs. Evanston?
Yes.
Mr. Schreiner?
Yes.
Mrs. Cordero?
Yes.
And Mr. Huckabee.
Yes. Facilities and maintenance, please.
Yes, thank you. We just have an informational item, the update on the job site meetings. I'll turn it over to Mr. Kelly.
Thank you. We've met on both August 4th and the 19th with the roofing contractor as well as the roofing consultant who the contractor is required to hire under their contract with the district as well as the architect. Work is progressing on schedule. We're anticipating for the entire rubber portion of the roof to be laid down both at Smithville and Roland Rogers before the start of school. I did not get the chance to visit Smithville School this morning. I had wanted to, but an issue arose and I was unable to attend. I did note, since I was able to look out my window, that they were finishing the portico walkway at Roland Rogers. That was the last section of rubber that needed to be put down. Originally, the contractor was beginning the metal trim work in the rear of the building. At our job site meeting, we requested that the contractor work on the front of the building, if possible, although we didn't want to impede their progress, to try and get the school looking as best as possible for the first day of school.
Thank you. George, you have anything you need to add?
Not really, but it's going to be well covered. It looks like the weather's going to be good this week for us, and I'm sure all the weather will happen for rubber on the roof.
Yes, and just as a reminder, because we're coming up on the opening of school, we did schedule within 1 week instead of doing another job site meeting. So that'll be this Thursday, the 28th, at 1:30 in the afternoon, and that'll be at the district conference room.
Any board members have any questions on facilities and maintenance? Let's go to community use of school facilities, please.
Thank you. Item 1 is Galloway Renovates Cheerleading has requested the use of Arthur Range Gym Monday through Thursday nights from September 4th through November 18th, 2014, 6 to 8 p.m. Resolution 2 is the East Coast Crush Volleyball Club requests the use of GTMS Gym on Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays from September 15th through August 29th for team practices 5:30 and 9:30 p.m. They were 2 sports related requests. Scouts, the Galloway Cub Scout Pack 12 Den 2 has requested the use of the Smithville cafeteria for den meetings on Monday evenings from September through May, 6:45 to 8 p.m. and the various dates are listed. Item 2, under Scouts, Girl Scouts of Greater Galloway has requested the use of Roland Rogers cafeteria for Girl Scout information and recruitment event and the Juliet Glover birthday celebration on Thursday, October 23rd, and that's from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. And the final request, which is also a Girl Scout request for Troop 13094, request to use Roland Rogers cafeteria for troop meetings Tuesday evenings from September through June, and again, the dates are listed.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to approve community use of school facilities, both school-related and Scouts, please? Any board discussion? Any public comment? May I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Carmen? Mrs. Avery? Mrs. Evanston? Mr. Schreiner?
I'm conducting the meeting. I'm sorry I didn't see you, sir. Please come to the microphone and state your name. You need to come to the microphone, sir, because we're report, please.
On that previous item, didn't ask for a public comment about the roofing, and did we have a referendum on that?
Yes, there was 2 referendums on the roofing for those schools, which was defeated, and the school district itself has saved money to replace the roofs. In addition, we received a ROD grant from the state to pay for approximately 48% of that cost.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Mr. Kelly, where were we on the roll call?
I believe I have Mr. Carmen, Mrs. Avery, Mrs. Evanson, Mr. Schreiner,
Yes.
Mr. Days, Mrs. Cordero,
Yes.
and Mr. Hubbard.
Yes. Personnel, please.
Thank you. Item 1 is a resolution to accept, with regret, the retirement of Neil Caesar, GTMS custodian, effective August 31st, 2014. She has worked for the Galloway Township Public School District for the past 13 years. Her service to the students and staff are acknowledged and appreciated.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to approve item number 1 under personnel, please? Any board discussion? Any public comment? May I have roll call, please?
Mr. Days, Mr. Schreiner,
Yes.
Mrs. Avery, Mrs. Evanson, Mr. Carmen, Mrs. Cordero, Mr. Hubbard.
Yes.
Thank you. Item 2 is a resolution to accept a letter of resignation from Jamie Gillespie, Assistant Principal at Smithville Elementary School, effective August 22nd, 2014. Resolution 3 is to accept a letter of resignation from Elizabeth Corey, part-time teacher at Smithville Elementary School, effective August 18th, 2014. Resolution 4 is to accept a letter of resignation from Erin Jane, teacher at Smithville Elementary School, effective August 25th, 2014.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to approve items 2, 3, and 4 under personnel, please? Thank you. Any board discussion? Any public comment? May I have roll call?
Mrs. Avery, Mr. Carmen, Mr. Days, Mr. Schreiner,
Yes.
Mrs. Evanson, Mrs. Cordero, Mr. Hubbard.
Yes.
Thank you. Item 5 is a resolution to approve the maternity leave extension request from Andrea Dare, teacher at Galloway Township Middle School. The dates and terms and conditions are listed. Resolution 6 is to approve the family leave request from Janet Thomas, secretary of Galloway Township Middle School. Again, the dates and terms and conditions are listed. Resolution 7 is to approve the maternity leave request from Elizabeth Akbar, teacher at Pomona Preschool. Again, the various dates and the terms and conditions along with them are listed.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to approve items 5, 6, and 7 under personnel, please? Thank you. Any board discussion? Any public comment? May I have a roll call, please?
Mrs. Evanson, Mr. Carmen, Mrs. Avery, Mr. Schreiner,
Yes.
Mr. Days,
Must abstain on number 5, yes, and everything else.
thank you, Mrs. Cordero, Mr. Hubbard.
Yes.
Thank you. Resolution 8 is to approve staff transfers for the 2014-15 school year effective September 1 through June 30. A reminder to the board that any time staff members are transferred between schools, it needs to be board approved. Resolution 9 is to approve David Ragazzi as assistant principal at Galloway Township Middle School for the 2014-15 school year effective August 26, 2014 through June 30, 2015, pending successful completion of criminal history review. The salary, terms and conditions are listed, and this is a replacement position. Resolution 10 is to approve Robert Ford as an assistant principal at Smithville Elementary School for the 2014-15 school year effective August 26, 2014 through June 30, 2015, pending successful completion of criminal history review. Again, the terms and conditions are listed. This is also a replacement position. Resolution 11 is to approve Leanne Scull as a 6th grade teacher at Arthur Mann Elementary School for the 2014-15 school year, September 1 through June 30. The salary, including the step, the amount, and the degree are listed as part of the account numbers, and remember this is a replacement position. Resolution 12 is to approve Josephine Delente as a 3rd grade teacher at Smithville Elementary School for the 2014-15 school year, September 1 through June 30. Terms and conditions are listed, replacement position. Resolution 13 is to approve Andrea Stevens as a first grade teacher at elementary school for the 2014-15 school year effective September 1 through December 5th, 2014. The terms and conditions are listed. This is a leave position. Resolution 14 is to approve Patricia Hughes as a part-time intervention teacher at Smithville Elementary School for the 2014-15 school year, September 1 through June 30. This is pending successful completion of criminal history review. And I will note, if someone has already worked here, say as a substitute, for example, they've already been through the criminal history review. If someone is a totally new employee, we need to include that statement. Resolution 15 is to approve Danielle Sullivan as a part-time intervention teacher at Smithville Elementary School for the 2014-15 school year, September 1 through June 30. Terms and conditions are listed. It should be noted that this position is funded through federal Title I monies and is a replacement position. Resolution 16 is to approve Caitlin Dockery as a part-time intervention teacher at Reeves Road Elementary School for the 2014-15 school year, effective September through June. The terms and conditions are listed. It should be noted that this is also funded through Title I federal funds and is a replacement position. Resolution 17 is to approve Jenny Schaub as a part-time LLD classroom assistant at Galloway Township Middle School for the 14-15 school year, September 1 through February 2nd. The terms and conditions are listed. This is a lead position. Resolution 18 is to approve Candace Halley as a classroom assistant at Reeves Road Elementary School for the 14-15 school year, September 1 through June 30. The terms and conditions are listed. It should be noted that this is a new position for a student that the district is accepting as a tuition student. Resolution 19 is to approve Samantha Rada as a part-time classroom assistant at Reeves Road Elementary School for the 14-15 school year, effective September 1 through June 30. Terms and conditions are listed. This is a replacement position. Resolution 20 is to approve Giselle Prentice as a part-time food service worker at Roland Rogers Elementary School for the 14-15 school year, effective September 1 through June 30th. The salary and hourly rate, hours per day are listed. It should be noted that food service is an enterprise account. It does not come from the local budget, and this is a local replacement position. Resolution 21 is to approve William Wheatley as a part-time food service worker at Reeves Road Elementary School for the 2014-15 school year, effective September 1 through June 30. The terms and conditions are listed. This is a replacement position, and again, is the food service enterprise account, not part of the local budget.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to approve items 8 through 21 inclusive under personnel, please? Thank you. Is there any board discussion?
I have a comment.
Yes, ma'am.
I had the opportunity to interview Mr. Gazzi at Brown School, Mrs. John Kerr, Mr. Silvestri, and Dr. G. Quinto, an excellent candidate, a really good group of people, and I think they're making a good decision.
Thank you. Any other comments?
I'd like to comment also, I've seen both gentlemen in interviews, and I'm very glad we got them in Galloway, but I also want to compliment Mrs. Junker. It shows what capability and efficiency result in. Congratulations to you.
Thank you. Is there any public comment at this time? Please come to the microphone, state your name, and then your Galloway resident.
Yeah, hello, my name is Tom Riley. I'm a Galloway resident. Just one question. All these part-time positions that we just went over, are they eligible for retirement plans and health and insurance benefits?
The positions do pay into the retirement plan. However, they are not eligible for health benefits.
Just to follow up, certain positions are part of the new DCRP, Defined Contribution Retirement Fund, which is not part of the traditional state pension due to pension reform that's been enacted in recent years. There are a certain number of hours an employee must work in order to be eligible for the, I'll call them traditional pension retirement plans that still do exist. If they don't work those number of hours, they enter this, it's called the DCRP, and it's more of a 401k type plan where the employee makes a contribution. The employer matches up to 3%, and then that amount is placed in that individual's account. It's a different type of plan. Again, that's depending on the number of hours and when that person actually entered employment service.
Any other questions? Can I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Schweiner?
Yes.
Mr. Days?
Yes.
Mr. Carmen? Mrs. Avery?
Yes.
Mrs. Evanson? Mrs. Cordero?
Yes.
And Mr. Hooker?
Yes.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to pause and call on our administrators who have new staff members here this evening. It's a tradition here in Galloway that when we hire certificated staff, for the first time, we invite them to the board meeting. Dr. Galloway from Smithville School, if you'll begin for us.
Good evening, thank you. It's my pleasure to introduce three members of the staff. The first we have Mrs. Patty Hughes. She's taught us 13 years in Massachusetts. She relocated and we're very fortunate to have her join us in the 4th grade intervention division. To my right is Mrs. Andrea Stevens. She has been a member of the Galloway staff previously. She has some children and now she's returning to us and she will be fulfilling the maternity leave in 1st grade. And as part of the leadership team, I'm happy to have Robert Ford joining us as my co-administrator.
Mrs. Junker, principal here at Galloway Township Middle School.
Thank you. I'm excited to introduce to you tonight Mr. David Ragazzi. He comes to us from Byron Public Schools. He's been teaching there for 7 years as a biology teacher, and we're excited to have him be a part of our administrative team here at the school.
Thank you. I didn't miss anybody. Very good. Continuing in personnel, item 22 is a resolution to renew the following substitutes for the 2014-15 school year, effective September 1st through June 30th. Of the various categories are listed, the daily rate they receive, and the basic account numbers. Resolution 23 is to approve the following substitute teachers for the 2014-15 school year. These are new people, not renewals. September 1st through June 30th. This is pending successful completion of criminal history review. The various individuals, whether or not they have a teaching certificate and the daily rate, are listed. Resolution 24 is to approve the following staff supplemental positions at Galloway Township Middle School for the 2014-15 school year. This is effective September 1 through June 30th. For each category, you have the type of position, the rate, and the account number, as well as the number of not to exceed hours.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to approve items 22, 23, and 24 under personnel, please? Thank you. Any board discussion? Any public comment? May I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Carmen?
Yes.
Mr. Schweiner?
I'm abstaining on number 22, the substitute secretary, and yes on everything else.
Thank you. Mrs. Avery?
Yes.
Mr. Days?
I must abstain on item number 24, co-curricular activities, yes on everything else.
Thank you. Mrs. Evanson? Mrs. Cordero?
Yes.
And Mr. Hooker?
Yes.
Thank you. Resolution 25 is to approve child care staff effective September 1 through June 30 for the 2014-15 school year. For each category, the type of position, the hourly stipend, and the individuals are listed. I should note child care is also an enterprise account, and the fees paid to the staff and for all the supplies and materials in the program, the money comes from the families that use the program. The parents and guardians do pay to use the child care program.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to approve item number 25 under personnel, please?
Second.
Thank you. Any board discussion? Yes, ma'am.
Is there a way to find out how many parents utilize the child care program?
I can't answer that question for you right now, but absolutely, there are detailed records kept. Sure. Certainly will.
Any other comments? Any public comment? Can I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Days?
Yes.
Mr. Schweiner?
Yes.
Mr. Carmen?
Yes.
Mrs. Evanson? Mrs. Avery? Mrs. Cordero? Mr. Hooker?
Yes.
Thank you. Resolution 26 is to approve the following teachers for intro-to-park training. The dates are listed, the hourly rate, and the not to exceed 3 hours per person. I will note that 26 through 30, all of these training items are funded through federal Title IIA monies. Resolution 27 is to approve teachers for training for English Language Arts, Common Core, and Park. Again, all the details are listed. Resolution 28 is for teachers who participated in the Math, Common Core, and Park training. Resolution 29 is for Intro to iPad training, and Resolution 30 is for a staff member who serves as a substitute in our Ready for K program. Again, those items I just did are funded with federal funds.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to approve items 26 through 30 inclusive under personnel, please? Thank you. Any board discussion? Any public comment? May I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Days? Mr. Carmen? Mrs. Avery? Mrs. Evanson? Mr. Schreiner?
Yes.
Mrs. Cordero? Mr. Hubbard?
Yes. Policy, please.
We have no policies this evening.
Meetings?
Yes. In September, we have 2 Board of Education meetings on the 15th and 22nd. Both of these meetings are right here in the GTMS cafetorium at 7 o'clock p.m. I need to flip my pages. I'll move to special events. It's that time of year with a lot of special events related to the opening of school. New staff orientation is tomorrow morning. On the 27th, we have bus driver training and guest teacher orientation. For our incoming 7th grade students, we have 7th grade orientation on the 28th. Our staff members return on September 2nd, and that is school-based meetings and training. And then the district-wide opening celebration and staff development day is on September 3rd. Orientation for preschool students and kindergarten orientation are at their respective schools on September 3rd. Our students return on September 4th. And finally, we do have our back-to-school nights, the dates and times listed. It is a nice chance, and hopefully there's some parents and guardians. Prior to each back-to-school night, there will be approximately a half an hour presentation about the Common Core, so that you can learn a little bit more about that.
Thank you. Okay. Tomorrow, new staff, all board members welcome, but I have to give a speech tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock.
8:30, President Hubbard, yes. We start off at 8:30 with introductions, and then it goes into training. We are fortunate that some of the companies in the area do make donations, so the refreshments in the morning for the new staff are being funded by Lincoln Investment, and the lunch for the new staff is being funded by Wood Harris our nutrition company.
District-wide, that's here in this building.
Yes, that is right here in this building. I would like to thank the Galloway Township Education Association, who is funding the morning refreshments for the district-wide opening for staff.
Okay. Back to school nights. Historically, the board attends the back to school nights, welcomes the parents back, tells the parents what we've accomplished over the past year and what we look forward to. The first one we have is Roland Rogers, September 10th. We have volunteers. Richard.
If I can get around on the 10th, I will.
Oh, that's right, you're having surgery. Thank you. Okay. Arthur ran on the 17th. Reed Road on the 18th. Smithville. I'm not going to Smithville. GTMS, are we doing the Memorex?
I prefer live, but Mrs. Junker and I have not had a chance to talk about that yet.
Okay.
But no, we reported the next year president, I will consult on that.
Let me know, please. Okay.
So the time is 6:30, but from 6:30 to 7:30.
No. Whatever time is listed, the park presentation is a half an hour before that.
Now we're coming to the part of the meeting where I assume the majority of the people in attendance are coming to talk. This is under old business for this Board of Education. Before we start, we would like to give to you a presentation of understanding the school budget and the taxes. There are some flyers out in the audience for you to follow along with the themes that we're going to be presenting. The presentation is about 6 or 7 slides. After that, we will break for a moment or two. We have 2 microphones set up. I will remind everyone, please, when you come to the microphone, state your name and your Galloway resident, ask your question. According to board policy, we restrict the time that you can speak to 5 minutes. Then we'll ask the next person to speak. We ask that this be done in an orderly fashion, and we will be here to answer all your questions this evening. Again, this is the Board of Education meeting. I cannot answer any municipal tax questions, nor any Greater Egg Harbor Regional tax questions.
Good evening, everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to begin the presentation. Hopefully you've had a chance to pick up the handout. This is a presentation that Mr. Kelly and I put together. Most of the information in this presentation has previously been presented at budget meetings that occurred from January through April. So some of you may have seen some of this information in the past. To start us off, Mr. Kelly is going to share some general information about how school budgets work in New Jersey.
Thank you. Just to make a point of general information, school districts in New Jersey are generally funded by a combination of the local tax levy and state aid. Schools are also funded through fund balance. We have something that's called excess surplus. At the end of a fiscal year, the auditor comes in and finalizes the audit as they just did last week. They're back in their offices finalizing the report that will be presented in October. And they make a calculation to determine if the district has any excess surplus. What excess surplus is in essence, fund balance in excess of 2% of our annual budget appropriations. If we have any amount that is greater than that 2% number, we are required by law to budget that into the upcoming budget as tax relief. State aid is based on the School Funding Reform Act, otherwise known as SERPA. It's not fully funded at this time by the state. The state does provide us with a calculation of the full funding amount under SERPA. That calculation comes out to just under $27 million. The actual state aid that the district will receive this year is $23.6 million. So if you do the math, that comes to an underfunded amount of about $4.1 million as far as what the state, under their funding act, calculates we should receive versus what we actually receive in state aid from the state. This equates, if you do the math, to about 15 cents on the tax rate. And it's been underfunded for multiple years. When the funding act came out, it still has not been funded fully by the state. Township statistics, for those of you who aren't aware, there's actually 2 school districts in Galloway. The local school district, that is preschool through grade 8, the middle school, Brand, Roland, Reed, Smithville, and Promoted Preschool, as well as the Greater Egg Harbor Regional High School District, that has 3. If we look just at Galloway, our budget, as far as where funds come from this year in the 14-15 budget, our state aid is 39.6% of our budget. Total comes from state aid. The tax levy is 51%. Fund balance, 5.4%. Capital reserve, for some of the capital projects we're doing this summer, the 2 roofing replacements, 3.6%, and other. A small amount of federal funds that we budget for these revenue percentage of the municipal tax levy. Galloway Township Public Schools here. If we look at the levy for the 2014 calendar year, we come up with 38.6% of the total tax levy. Greater and Carver Regional, which is the high school district, grades 9 through 12, is 21.9%. That's where you get, as you reported in the paper, the 60.5% number that has been reported in the paper. That is a combination of the 2 school districts, grades pre-K through 12. This Board of Education here is responsible for preschool through grade 8. And just some information for other surrounding districts. I obtained information from the Atlantic County Board of Taxation, as well as the County Abstract of Rate Rules for 2013. Egg Harbor Township, 64% of their local municipal taxes go towards schools. Hamilton's 52, Hamilton's 55, Buena is 61, Pleasantville is 27. That's a direct result of how schools, as I said before, are funded in New Jersey. Pleasantville is a former Abbott district, so the majority of their funding comes from state instead of local funds.
Sometimes people ask us, what does the budget comprise, or what kinds of things are you required to do? So this slide, this is one of the reasons we did a handout, because there is a lot of information here. On the left-hand side are instructional things. And so the current year budget maintains in some form all our existing programs and services. Our board has continued to look to have reasonable class size with lower class size for the younger grades, and the class size does increase as the age of the students increases. You earlier heard me mention the Common Core and the Park. And I'll use an example here. When New Jersey switched from the language arts and math standard that it had used for quite a few years and adopted the Common Core, we were required to realign our curriculum, to rewrite our curriculum. When you do that, especially when there were a lot of changes, we also had to purchase new materials. So we did that over a course of several years, but those materials added up to $1 million. Again, a mandate to keep in line with what the state requires us to do. With this, we do professional development to make sure our teachers understand these mandates and are using the best strategies for our students. I earlier mentioned the increase of technology. And this technology is something that children use in their everyday lives, but is also part of excellent learning, as well as required for the state assessments. Another mandate, requirements in terms of teacher and administrator evaluation that involves software systems, training for staff, and additional work. For years, Reach Road was the only elementary school without a gymnasium. Several years ago, we were able to add that. You may say, gosh, I don't remember a referendum. There did not need to be a referendum. That was done through savings that the district did over time. And you heard an item tonight about PID. You may have heard a lot, especially when it first came out, the harassment, intimidation, and bullying legislation. There are procedures and rules and reports that come along with this work. Again, a mandate. On the right-hand side is non-instructional, so I'll turn things back over to Mr. Kemp.
Thank you. Just to highlight a few items on this list. Over the past 2 years, we budgeted $750,000 and $450,000 as deposits into the district's capital reserve account. That is an avenue that the Department of Ed and state law has allowed us to save towards projects in our long-term facilities plan, which is approved by the State Department of Ed. And those funds went straight towards the roofing replacement at Arthur Rand last year, parking lot rehabilitation at Arthur Rand, as well as the roofing replacements that are finishing up right now at Smithville and Roland Rogers schools. Over the past 3 years, the district has deposited over $2.6 million into the capital reserve account, and that has allowed us to fund those projects. And along with that, just under 50% state grant funding funding of the state aid formula. State aid for the current year, 14-15, increased just over $66,000, which is 0.11% of our general fund. We've implemented Public Law 78, or Chapter 78, excuse me. This came along with some of the pension and benefit reforms that were passed a few years ago, where employees of the school district are contributing additional amounts towards their health benefits, and that resulted in direct savings to the taxpayer this year alone of $725,000. Both our brand groups and product brands. Also, we have installed a new phone system to align our goals with security, as well as continuing to maintain healthy schools.
This Board of Education and Administration do try to be cognizant of taxpayer dollars, balancing providing quality education for our children, meeting the many government mandates, but keeping the taxpayer in mind. So this particular slide highlights a number of the things that we do. On the left-hand side, you see things such as work that our own staff does internally as opposed to contracting it out, and we do that whenever possible. Our administrators serve in multiple roles. For example, Mr. Kelly just doesn't handle the finances. He oversees all instructional services, and that's just one example. Shared services. This will be the second year. We are in a partnership with Portland Public Schools, where we provide and have an agreement with them for food services. There used to be more schools in Galloway, and we know people have asked, what have you done about decreasing enrollment? Well, we've done a number of things. And some people in the community, this is a sad thing, and I understand that. There were older schools. They were no longer in the condition to be used as schools, so they were closed and then raised so that we would not have to upkeep those properties or make improvements to make them usable in the current state of schools. We participate in purchasing cooperatives. One of those was approved on tonight's agenda. We have eliminated the majority of courtesy busing. For years, the school district bused children who lived within 2 miles. And as we saw the economy getting tougher, as we had reductions in state aid, although this was difficult for the families that it affected, it was one of the things we did to save money. And then at the middle school, I was principal here for several years. We used to run activity buses 5 days a week and have more activity buses. With a slight decrease in enrollment, and again, to save money, we don't run buses 5 days a week anymore. And on certain days of the week, we don't run as many buses. The activities are now compacted into fewer days. Again, a savings in the budget. On the right-hand side, you will see either positions that we have eliminated and have never returned, or some changes we made. And many of these things happened at the time when there was that dramatic cut in state aid. And you see the reductions in teachers, phys ed and health, world language, art and music, counselors, teaching and learning facilitators, secretaries, nurses. For those of you who don't know, I used to be the assistant superintendent. When I became the superintendent, we did not replace that position. Our elementary library secretaries used to be full-time, they are now part-time. Our intervention teachers that work with children who need assistance in language arts and math. When we needed to add teachers in that area, we are hiring part-time people. You saw some of those folks approved this evening. That is a saving in salary and in the cost of benefits. When we were doing some changing in facility, we used to have 2 managers with different responsibilities. We now have 1 manager and 1 assistant manager. Again, just a smattering of things that this board and our administration have done to have a more efficient budget and still provide a quality education. Now for some more budget efficiencies, Mr. Kelly.
Just to follow up on that last slide, I know there was a question in public comment, and I don't know if I answered it fully. Because the question addressed pension and also health benefits, so I just want to re-clarify that. Anytime you see the word part-time used to describe a position, that position does not receive any health benefits in the district. So if we were going from full-time to a position with benefits with part-time, that position would have lost the health benefits associated with that position. office in Mays Landing. And we sit with the Executive County Superintendent, the Executive County School Business Administrator that oversees all school districts and Atlantic and multiple other counties. They generally serve 2 or 3 counties at a time. And when we sit down, they look at 7 key matrix that they use to rate school districts on how well or how effective they feel that budget spending is on track. I'm happy to say that it's not very common, the Executive County Business Administrator said, but few districts do. We meet all 7 of the criteria that the Department of Education looks at. They look at support services, which is non-direct instruction in the classroom, health services, child study team services, library, nursing, services that students receive during the day but is not direct classroom instruction. They look at how much per student do you spend on these types of services. The district, while we're right about the average, we're still below, $4 less per student than the state. Administrative costs, they're very keenly aware of administrative costs in the district, and that is something that every school district has to deal with on a regular basis during budget time. Galloway Township Public Schools spends $239 less per student than the state average on administrative costs. Legal services, we spend $26 less per student than the state average. And then plant and maintenance, which is facilities and maintenance, custodial services, etc. We spend $134 less per student than the state average. And just to note below, less is a favorable rating looking at these standards. The other section they look at is staff ratios compared to the state average. The Department of Education has become very data-driven. All the information from our audit is uploaded into a database at the Department of Ed by our auditor, and that's how they calculate these numbers on an annual basis. There are also staff submissions on a regular basis that they're using to count staff and identify how many people are in those positions. So that's how these numbers are derived. Educational support staff to students, again, nursing, library, child study team, non-direct classroom. We have a ratio above by 5.5 students. That means each staff member in Galloway serves 5.5 students more on average than other districts in the state. Administrative personnel to students, they look at both students and faculty, because again, they're very keenly aware of administrative costs. Administrative personnel to students, each administrator in Galloway, on average, serves 27.8 students more than other students of this type in the state, as well as administrative personnel to faculty. So who are those administrators supervising? We are above on that, so each administrator supervises 4.2 faculty members more than the normal school district or average school district in the state of New Jersey. I see a hand raised in the back. There will be a chance for public comment when we're done the presentation. And again, just to reiterate, for this second column, above the state average is a favorable rating as far as what the Department of Ed looks at when they come, or when we go to them actually, and sit down to review our current budget. Continuing looking at the 2014 calendar year tax levy, and I do just want to emphasize that this information is related to the 2014 calendar year. The school district operates on a fiscal year. The school district operates from July 1st through June 30th. So the taxes that are raised from our fiscal year budget, 2014-2015, half of those, in essence from July 1st through December 31st, half of those are raised in calendar year 2014, and then the second half will be raised in calendar year 2015 and become part of the 2015 tax levy. Since most people look at their actual tax base to see what they're spending, this is related to the 2014 calendar year tax levy. And this is amounts in dollars and also percentages that taxes increased this year. You see the schools at just over 1.1 million, Greater Ag, the municipal. The county actually went down. And I can only assume that that's part of a result of the revaluation in the township. I don't have the specifics on that, only to know the fact that it did go down. In total, the total taxes that are paid in Galloway Township between 2013 and 2014, in total, between school district, municipality, county, county library, county open space, and I think there's one other small one, increased just over $1.9 million. And that calculates to an increase of 2.55%. So total taxes increased 2.55% in 2013 and 2014.
Ladies and gentlemen, again, there will be a chance for public comment. We are almost finished. This particular slide shows you a 5-year history. On the next slide, we're going to show you a 6-year history. And one of the reasons that in working with Mr. Kelly to pull together this data, we looked at 5 years. This is my 5th year as superintendent. So if you look at these years, you can see total over the 5 years, the Galloway schools have increased the levy by $1.4 million, a little over 5%. That is the total of the 5 years. And I can tell you some of those years, there was a 0 increase in the tax levy from the school district. You can see that same information for the regional school district, the municipality, and the county, again, over that 5-year period. If we go one more year, and this would be starting up with the superintendent prior to me, and a variety of board members. Some of the board members have been here this entire time. Some of them are more recently elected. Again, this is 6 years. If you look at the different numbers, you will see our school district has increased the tax levy by $1.6+ million for a total of 5.65% over that 6-year period. You see those same numbers, dollar amounts, and percentages for each of the other entities that contributes to your tax bill. If you look at the dollar amounts, we are second lowest only to the county. If you look at the percentages over the 6-year period, we are the lowest. So one of the things that, if you learn nothing else this evening, that yes, our school district does make up about 38% of your tax bill. However, our school district has been very cognizant of the economy, of the impact on seniors, on every resident. And I believe in the last 5 to 6 years, we have done a great deal servicing 3,400 students, improving our facilities in basic ways like roofing, for, if you average it out, only a little over 1% each year. I want to thank you for your attention during this presentation. President Hubbard will be reviewing the rules for public comment, and as he said earlier in the meeting, there will be an opportunity for everyone who wishes to make a comment or ask a question.
Thank you for your attention. At this time, I ask Larry to center microphone on and ready to go. Brian, you ready? Front microphone. I will ask that you will orderly go to either the middle microphone or the front microphone. I will address you. You will state your name. If you're a Galloway resident, ask a question. Again, I reiterate that our policy will limit you to 5 minutes to the microphone so that everyone in this room may be heard this evening. So please, if you want to start forming lines, you can. First person comes to the microphone, state your name if you're a Galloway resident.
Tom Riley, Galloway resident. This is very well put together. Congratulations on this, but I look at a lot of these numbers as the best and the worst. And what I mean by that is the New Jersey school taxes and the taxes in New Jersey on property are among the worst in the United States. So you're doing well compared to your peers. Congratulations on that. And my point is, more work has to be done in Galloway between the township, the schools, and all of you together have to get together because there's people in this room who have had 35 and 40 and 50% tax increases from last year to this year. And all the question I'm asking you is, you're working on it. I'd like, what do you have working to go even further?
Thank you for your comments, sir.
Tony Ancon, Galloway Township. I'm the Vice President of the Four Seasons Homeowners Association, and I just have a few numbers here. There are 17,503 properties in Galloway Township that produce tax revenue. Four Seasons has 1,216 homes. In other words, we produce 6.94% of all the tax in the Township of Galloway Township. Okay? Now, based on what could be an average tax of $7,000 in each one of our homes, we produce $8,500 to $12,000 to Galloway Township. And based on the fact that the school tax is 60.52% of our taxes, we produce $5,151,624, or we are paying Four Seasons of Smithville 17% of the school budget. Okay, based on the fact that when I say school budget, the $30,614.79 that comes from the local. Our question is, we understand that there are people who are losing their jobs in Atlantic City, and that's going to affect all the taxes. Well, again, we are a senior community. A lot of our people are on fixed incomes. We need some help. As Tom said, some of our people's taxes have gone up $2,000 to $3,000. Admittedly, it's not all of the school board's fault. And we expect to pay taxes. We understand that we have to fund the children for the next generation. But there has to be a point in time where this stops, where it starts to go down a little bit. Because as people lose their job in Atlantic City, they're going to be moving out. As people in our community are unable to pay their taxes, they're going to be moving out. And it's going to affect this township in all. My question, gentlemen, is what are you going to do this? And what would you do if Four Seasons wasn't here? What would you do if we weren't giving you $5 million?
Well, that's a good question. There's several factors that I got to tell you candidly that we can't answer. We, as a Board of Education, are driven by laws by the state, as you're well aware. The way the funding mechanism works, the way we are allowed to raise taxes, and how much we're allowed to raise them per year. As you know, we're capped at 2% per year on the local side. The state is in flux with their funding to us. This year we're at 38% of the money. Maybe if we didn't have Four Seasons, who knows? We might get 50%. I don't know. I can't answer your question because I'm limited to what the state will give us. As you have seen earlier and was demonstrated, we are, $4.1 million short already from the state? Now, granted, if we got the $4.1 million, I think everybody's taxes would go down because we would have to raise it from the local taxpayers. So that might answer part of your question. You would get some of that 17% back of that 4.1. We don't get it from the state. We have to run our school system. You have something you want to add?
One of the things you asked, sir, was what are we going to do? And
well, let me qualify that. I'm not asking that. There are approximately 2,400 people in Four Seasons that are asking that because there's an awful lot of people that are on a fixed income. And this latest tax increase, which I know is not all your fault, is really going to hurt them severely. And some of these people are going to move out or abandon their homes, which means the amount of taxes raised is going to go down anyway. So there has to be, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but there has to be something that the school board can do, and also the township. We're waiting for the mayor to have his special meeting also. But there has to be something that you people can do to either stabilize these taxes or help to reduce them in some way.
And I will tell you, on an annual basis, we assess every aspect of the school budget. We analyze enrollment trends. Where we can, we reduce positions. We look at efficiencies in terms of things that we purchase, entering cooperatives. So it's a very detailed and thorough process. And one of the things I certainly encourage folks is please come to board meetings during budget season. Over the course of several meetings, Mr. Kelly and I get into even more detail than we did this evening. So our responsibility is to make sure we are fulfilling these mandates in the most efficient way possible, that we are meeting the needs of the children. And I will share with you, We pay very close attention to what's happening in Atlantic City and how it affects this community, because it has a great effect on the school district. I started working here 20 years ago. It's my 21st year. About 20% of the students were on free and reduced lunch. As of this year, Mr. Kelly, am I correct, it's close to 50% of the students are on free and reduced lunch. And you might think maybe we'll get more state aid for that. As you can see, that has not happened. So, sir, I can assure you, like this board and administration have done in the past, we take each year, we look at what we absolutely need to do, we look at what we can put off, and we try to put the best budget possible. As I mentioned, there were several years when there was no tax increase from this school board, from this school district. Two of the main reasons there have been small increases in recent years are the facilities things that we needed to do, as well as the state mandates, especially the ones in language arts and math that are very costly. So we will continue. We hear you. We know your concern. We are all taxpayers. I live here. I live in Egg Harbor Township. That is number on the list. But we're all taxpayers. And we certainly want to try to support you. But we also have responsibilities to the children that we serve and their families. Because I can tell you, when we were making that list of cuts on the screen, the room was packed with parents and guardians begging us not to cut things. And so we're trying to balance all the factors in the vicinity.
If I may ask one more quick question. On your recent slide, you showed that how much better you were doing at keeping costs down than the greater Egg Harbor Township high schools, regional district. Am I correct?
They are the numbers.
Not for efficiencies. When we're looking at how much we spend per student,
Right.
that looks at there's certain categories where K-8 school district. So I believe.
Well, I'll make my statement
The
question.
state compares us to other K-8 districts. It doesn't compare us to greater Columbia.
Okay, the way it looked, I'm talking about the raising taxes was, it looks like your district is doing a better job of holding down taxes than the greater Egg Harbor Township High School. Simple question. Have you ever given any thought to getting out of it and just doing the high school ourselves?
Okay. Two things, if I may. A, I believe that we're a very stable school district. If you look for the past 6 years, our tax increase has been less than 1%. Okay. Number two, yes, that was addressed twice in the past 15 years. I don't want to get into a big diatribe this evening. However, it would cost the taxpayers of Galloway significantly more money if we were to withdraw from the Greater Egg Harbor Regional School District. It's been studied twice in 15 years.
All right, I guess I'll have to take your word for that.
Sir, another time I'd be glad to discuss it.
Okay, thank you.
Sir, in the middle row there, please state your name if you're a Galloway resident.
Yes, my name is Al Casanova. I am a Galloway resident. I'm also a homeowner in Atlantic City. So I don't think there's anybody in this room more frustrated at the tax rates than I am right now. Frustration and anger is not going to solve the issues. My daughter's in the school system in Galloway. I think it's one of the best in the country, and that's why I moved here. And you still do a great job. We had a city council meeting, was it last Tuesday or Wednesday?
Tuesday.
I think most of the people in this room were there. The mayor implored us to come here. He said he wouldn't be here. Oh, he's here? Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Not heard. Does a great job with this township as well. I think our solution lies in creating jobs, because we're losing the jobs in Atlantic City. I've been here most of my life. Atlantic City's been talking about building water parks and theme parks and skating rinks and this and that for kids. They haven't done it. So I'm imploring the Township of Galloway to do it. Bring it here. People will come here. They will drive 10 minutes from Atlantic City to bring their children here and play here and create jobs here. Because they're not going to do it in Atlantic City. So we need to do it here. And in Allentown, Pennsylvania, which was really in bad shape many, many years ago, they pumped $1 billion into the economic infrastructure of Allentown. By doing that, they instituted a NIS tax. And that's, I believe it stands for Neighborhood Improvement Zone. I think that's what it is. And that was all funded, the economic development through the state. They didn't pay state tax. They still don't pay state tax. And that's possibly one way that Galloway can entice businesses to come here. Again, it's state, we have to see if Trenton will allow it. And if so, I believe that creating those entities here will get the ratables up, and everybody in this room will benefit from a lower tax rate and hopefully solve the problem. And I think that really needs to be really looked into. The economic development of our area, not just, cutting school budgets. I don't think that's the answer. And if anybody in this room has any power or knows anybody that gets some commercial businesses here, give them some tax breaks, maybe that's what we need to do. That's it.
Well, thank you for your comment. If the Board of Education can help in that endeavor, I will reach out to Mr. Purdy, the mayor, and see how we can help him accomplish that. If it's giving information or preparing a presentation to the different businesses, we'll be more than glad to do that. Thank you for your job. Sir, please come to the first lower tier microphone. State your name if you're a Galloway resident, please.
So my name is Bill Marcos. I am a Galloway resident here. My son also goes to schools here. A couple of questions. When I was looking at the presentation, number one, I'm a fact guy. Okay, so I'm an engineer. All right, I worked at Lennox, and I shut that plant down. All right, I worked at Ball Corporation, and shut that plant down. Right now I'm working at Kellogg's, and I don't want to shut that plant down. All right, so we have a job problem, but I also manage budgets. So when I was working for Kellogg's, I spend money, okay? I spend millions of dollars, too, on plants, okay? So when I look at that roof thing, that was a shell game. So what you did was you basically hit us every year. And then you took that money and said, it's the budget. And you set it aside. And then we said, okay, we're going to take that money, and now we're going to spend it on the roofs. When the people said no.
Yeah, right.
They said no. They said no. This is the story. You don't play the shell game. Okay, that's BS. You spend the money that the people say you can spend. All right? You get yourself organized. And I want to know, who can I sit down with and go through the details?
First of all, I'm going to address your situation. On the roof, sir, the referendum failed twice. You told us not to borrow the money.
Yes.
You told us to save it. That's exactly what we did as the Board of Education, to put roofs on buildings that were greater than 20 years old. You being in the facilities and in a plant operation, you understand roofs don't last 20 years. We did what the citizens asked us to do, and we've done it. We were also lucky enough this last go around to have the state pay for approximately 48% of that roof cost for 2 of the school buildings. So we listened to the citizens. We did what you asked.
I would disagree, sir.
Well, you can disagree.
And we're allowed to say, because like I said, I run budgets too. So you're not talking to somebody that doesn't manage millions of dollars. I do. I understand the shell game, and that's what it was. You can call it whatever you want. That was a shell game. Because if you're going to save for that, you do it a little bit every year. You don't do it in 3 years. So I've been here in this area since 1990, okay? And I've seen the referendums come and go. And I know that the referendums were voted down. Okay? I know they did. And it was only in the past couple of years. So you don't save for a roof in 2 years. Right? You don't. So you save year after year every year. All right? So it wasn't like, hey, listen, guys, we need $20 million to put on a roof, and then all of a sudden, 3 years later, we do it anyhow?
Sir, we're also capped by the state 2% a year with all of that increase of budget. So we did save the money.
Okay. So who do I get to talk to about the details around the slides?
We have a user-friendly budget on the website.
There's a user-friendly budget on the website. If you would like to meet, please contact my office, 1250, extension 1016 of my secretary, Ms. Harris, and Mr. Kelly and I will look at our calendars and arrange meetings.
I would love to go through that, because I've been on the budget, that doesn't give me enough details. That's very high.
And we do what we are required. So I also do need to address this. You know, we do try to listen to the taxpayers, and what everyone may not understand is, I've had people ask when we were doing referendums, why are we doing so many roofs in such a short period of time? And the reason for that is the huge growth spurt that happened in Galloway at that time. Reed Road School was built the day it opened. It was filled beyond capacity. And then not long thereafter, Smithville and Roller Rogers schools opened at the same exact time. And so the roofs aged in a similar pattern.
And kids up on the roof. I'm just, yeah, they're not up there doing a dance on the roof, right? Okay, listen, let me do So the other thing that I would challenge the board on, as a, like I said, manufacturing company, okay, is that we do baseball, all right? And I wouldn't pay slang in the state of New Jersey. All right, I just wouldn't. I would start looking outside in other states that have been very successful. All right, and start looking at per. Because you guys put a lot of numbers up here. They're single point numbers. I need to see year over year. That's going to be something we're going to talk about. I want to see year over year ratio.
Sir, your excuse. Thank you. Any other public comments?
My name is Nick Conti. I am a Galloway resident. Very commendable that you showed over 5 years you only had a low percentage of increase. However, any increase as far as we're concerned is not acceptable. We're looking for decreases. The only way we're going to lower our tax burden is by lowering the school budget. I have a few suggestions, if I may, as to how to do this. Some may be impossible because of state regulations, but some to me seem obvious. First of all, I think we have to get back to the very basics of what school is for. It's reading, writing, and arithmetic. Now, I look at some of the expenses here, and I see indoor hockey. I see flag football. I see Crime Stoppers. I see Think Day. These are all extracurricular activities which would be great if we had unlimited funds. Maybe we can cut some of these or do away with them altogether if they are not self-sufficient. If they can support themselves with a zero balance, God bless you. How do you do this? Maybe through fundraisers. Maybe the parents of these children have to pay for the extracurricular activities. Why should we pay for these extracurricular activities? No one wants to deny our little ones all the opportunities that they should be available to them. But again, I'm talking reading, writing, arithmetic. These are all extracurricular activities. Now, I also understand, correct me if I'm wrong, that we have an after-school program. Now, evidently, we have this after-school program there because the parents are working and they relinquish their parental responsibilities and put them on the school. Now, when my children were young, I saw fit that they got a breakfast in the morning, that when they came home, someone was home, and we did our parental duties. I didn't put them on the school board. So let's stop the school board being parents. Now, if these things are necessary and have to be there, maybe they should not come out of the school budget. Maybe they should come out of child care, Medicaid, or some other funding, but not the school budget. That's on the student side. If I may, I'd address the administrative side with an example that's an abomination. This was a printout in the Atlantic City Press a few years ago. Everything I'm about to tell you was legitimate. No one cheated the system. Nothing was done illegally. A woman had a position in the New Jersey Education Association, didn't specify the position. She left this position. She resigned in March of the given year. She went to another job. While she was at the other job, she continued to receive a salary from the position she vacated. Now, to throw salt in the wound, in July of that year, she received an automatic pay increase in a job that she was not working at. And she continued to receive this salary through October of that year. So when we talk about cost savings, the administrative end of this, there are some nightmares there. Now, if you can, I'm assuming that this was part of the contract that she negotiated at the time she was hired. Now, whoever agreed to this contract has to be taught some kind of economics. Can you explain to me how someone gets a contract like this and how this money is wasted?
Okay,
This was in the press, it's all legitimate.
Okay, and sir, let's just deal with the first issue that you brought up.
Sure.
Child care, Dr. Hughley? Okay.
So the first issue you brought up was that we should only teach reading, writing, and arithmetic. And I will tell you, the state of New Jersey mandates otherwise. We are required to cover what the state calls English language arts, mathematics, science, social studies, technology education, college and career readiness, visual and performing arts, and comprehensive health and physical education. They are all mandated by the state. And in some areas, we do them extremely well. In other areas, we do the minimum, to meet the very, very minimum of the state standard, in part because of the budget. An example of that would be world language. We are required by the state to instruct students in a language other than English. We have 2 teachers to teach world language to all 4 elementary schools. And that's just an example.
I'm sorry, I don't mean, I apologize. It sounds like what you're speaking of is nothing I addressed. I'm talking about this field hockey and
I'm going to continue, sir.
things like that. I'm not talking about languages.
Please, sir,
The state mandates
if you let me finish, I will. Thank you. The next thing you talked about were co-curricular activities at the middle school. No, the state does not mandate them. However, if you look at any piece of educational research that has been done for decades, students at the middle and high school level, when you're not a high school district, but it applies to them, who participate in co-curricular activities and sports have better attendance, have better behavior, and have better academic achievement. Additionally, the time they are after school doing these activities, they are not out in the community. They are positively engaged as productive young people. I will also add that over time, this school district has reduced those activities in sports. There used to be nearly twice as many sports teams. We have cut them almost in half. The hours of the other clubs have been significantly reduced. As I indicated in the presentations, the activity buses and the number of buses each day and the number of days a week. And that may be a philosophic difference of whether the school should have that. I'm a 30-year educator, and I believe those activities are critical to the maturation, to learning leadership, and teamwork. You mentioned perhaps parents should pay for them. I will tell you that does happen in some communities. It tends to be wealthier communities. If we ask parents in Galloway to pay for those activities, we would create a situation of have and have nots. As I mentioned, 50% of our students are from families that qualify for free and reduced lunch, so that is a concern. I will next go to after-school child care. As I mentioned during that section of the agenda, the school district, not $1 of your tax dollars, pay for the before and after school child care program. Child care is what is known as the enterprise account. The monies that the parents pay for their children to arrive at school early or to stay after school to receive care because the parents say are at work, the parents pay those costs. That is not part of the school budget, and that is not part of your tax dollars. You mentioned administrative costs, and you gave an example of someone in their contract. I really am not sure to what you are referring. I don't know if Mr. Hubbard is aware of that. That is something I would need more information to understand really what you're trying to say so that I can better answer that.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate the information. However, again, we keep saying we cut this. Now, you say, oh, we reduced sports. by a certain percent. Have we eliminated it? And have we put the total burden on the parents of the children who are participating in this sport? Cutting it in half is still a burden on the taxpayers. We not only don't have children, but we're not taking advantage of these programs. But the parents, the children who are taking advantage of it, are the parents willing to pay for this? If they're not, then they don't believe you that this would be beneficial for their children to participate in this. And if we do not have it in the school that is beneficial to the children, then the parents should say, listen, if they feel it's that important, enroll my child in some sort of athletic activity outside of the school, and I will pay for it. Again, take those, we have to get back to the basics, reading, writing, and arithmetic. And we don't want to sacrifice that part of the children's education. But when you tell me that sports are beneficial, sure they are. But are they beneficial enough to put a burden on the taxpayers and seniors? I'm sorry. They should put a burden on the parents and the children.
Please, on the microphone, state your name.
My name is Charles Florida. I live in Galloway Township. Getting back to this referendum issues, I don't remember in the language of that referendum, it's stating that those roofs be authorized to be repaired, number one. Number two, the Reed Avenue Elementary School gymnasium, why was not that put on the referendum? Okay. I'm going to ask you one big question. We're spending all this money on education, 61% of our budget in Galloway. Okay, principally, I think that's for the welfare of the children in this township, so they become useful citizens, become gainfully employed. I want to ask you a question. The tax structure we have right now, what kind of businesses are going to move into Galloway Township to get these kids good jobs? Okay? Think about it. If you own a business, would you move in Galloway or New Jersey for that matter? And I know this problem's endemic all over New Jersey. You keep on bringing the principles that a lot of these rules are governed by the state of New Jersey. So why don't all the school districts in New Jersey get together and approach the state and benchmark what other states are doing that are attracting business and they have low taxes? Maybe that seems to be the formula. But it's not working over here in New Jersey, and it's not going to be working here in Galloway. We're going to become a little Detroit if this doesn't stop.
The referendums, if I may, I don't know the exact wording off the top of my head, I have to look at it, but I believe, and Tim can correct me, we asked the citizens of the Township of Galloway if they would support the Board of Education in borrowing X amount of dollars to put on new roofs on such and such a building. The Township citizens, the ones sitting here, said no. You said no, we couldn't borrow. You didn't say, oh, you can't put a new roof on. No, sir, it is not. Sir, I'm not going to get into semantics with you. I'm telling you that it was for the safety and soundness of our students that a 23-year-old roof had to be replaced. It's that simple. 3 roofs, actually. 4. I mean, that's what we had to do. Oh, sorry, sir. Sidetrack. Please state your name if you're a Galloway resident.
My name is Ron Huber. I am a Galloway resident. I've heard continuously tonight about the state referendum. And I feel for you in a way because the state is passing on all these referendums, okay, which has burdened you, I think, to unfortunately burden us. We happen to be the citizens of both Four Seasons. I happen to live in Blue Heron, which is an over 55 community, but basically is all retired people. So we, the people that do not burden the school district, are being burdened. I think you've heard that quite a bit. But at the same time, considering the states continually sends you these referendums and forces you to come up with these programs, have they sent you a check every time they sent you one of these referendums? Have they given you millions of dollars in funds to do these things that they're forcing you to do, even though over the years, we know that the state has continually cut their funding to municipalities and obviously the school district. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Sir, overwhelmingly, these mandates are unfunded. We are told you have to change the curriculum, and your children have to be prepared, and you will be tested, and you will be held accountable, you will be audited, you will be monitored. And as you saw on the slide, the state is not funding its own formula despite these additional referendums. And you saw that, they sent an additional $68,000 in state aid. Well, I can assure you, preparing the children for the Common Core and the park is a lot more than $68,000. And as I mentioned earlier, when we have to do things like that, we do look at other areas to cut. And I think the board hears very clearly that the township residents, at least the ones here this evening, are asking us to do more. The budget for the current year, the 14-15 school year, is set. We will be efficient as possible in spending funds this year to have, Mr. Kelly mentioned, excess surplus that is direct relief to the taxpayers. And when we begin the budget season again, which we actually barely get into the school year, I see some of the administrators are smiling, by October, we will be discussing the next budget. And knowing the board members sitting around me, because I've worked here for 20-some years, I know that the message from them will be, we need to do everything we can to pay attention to the needs of our community and the pressures on our taxpayers. I will tell you, we need your help as well, because we presented information about the mandates, about the rules, about the requirements. And the professional association, the superintendent's association that I belong to, the school boards association, we do go back at the state through our associations about these mandates and the burdens that they place on the school district. We don't get very far. Sometimes it takes the rank and file citizen to put that pressure on the state officials. Tell them. We heard from our school district that they had to spend $750,000 on materials in language arts and math. Why are you putting more mandates? So we need your help as well to work together.
Again,
I'm sorry, I don't want to hog on the place too much. But look, to me, it's like numbers. 60% of our tax bill is the school district. 22% or 23% is the township. Of those two budgets, when you break them down, and I saw it on a school budget, I believe your salaries and your benefits account for 65% of your costs. We're talking about school, we're talking about extracurricular, we're talking about everything, about sports, buses, and all that stuff. They're not the big nut. The big nut is salaries and benefits in people in all levels. We can go crazy talking about whether we should have sports, basketball. I believe we should have those things because they're not part of the problem. The problem, the root cause is salaries and benefits for employees, and I don't know the answer to that, but I think you and this board here are the ones that negotiate the contracts. I think it's up to you to figure that out. That's not really a question, that's a statement.
Gentleman in the center.
My name is Bob Muller. I'm also resident of Galloway. My name is Bob Muller. I'm a Galloway resident. I happen to live in Blue Heron Pines. I'm also the president of the Blue Heron Pines Homeowners Association. This first part is just a comment between ourselves and Four Seasons. I hope everyone remembers that between Four Seasons and Blue Heron Pines, we have about 3,000 voters on our hands. So I think as time goes forward, we need to stay very close to the school budgets, which a lot of us probably haven't paid attention to. A couple of items I would like to mention. First, on the reserve schedule. It was noted on the slide, $2.2 million over the last 3 years was slated into reserves. In our associations, we have a list of all the items that the association is responsible for and a schedule under which that needs to be replaced. Roofs, X number of years. Question, on the reserves in the school budget, does such a listing exist, and is each year a certain amount of money allocated to that? For the $2.2 million, has that been allocated to certain specific items that will be replaced over time? Because if that's being followed, you don't run into a huge gap where you have to hit 4 roofs and you don't have money set aside. So that's a question. Is there a schedule set aside for that? Number 2, on the enterprise funds. I am very familiar with that. A family member is very involved with that in another city. Enterprise funds in those townships pay use levies to offset because they are using school property. So the question would be, is there a levy? And it's a necessary item in this day and age, the before and after school programs. And personally, my heart's out to all those folks that are involved in that because they support a lot of work for parents, and so we usually have to go to that. The next item, student enrollment. One statistic I did not see was a year-by-year breakdown of our student enrollment and cost per student over those years. It would be very interesting to see what the cost has been per student over the last few years, especially the last 2 years. I also have to agree with what one of the other gentlemen said. I've run business operations here and in farming. Statistics don't lie, okay? However, there was some obvious smoothing, as of, for instance, in the 5.6% over the 5 or 6 years. Don't doubt that stat at all. Would love to see the stat breakdown by year because there were some 0 years, obviously, and were those 0 years a few years ago in the first part of those 5 or 6 versus the latter part. That says an awful lot relative to that. The other thing I'd like to ask, having run business operations, is our budget in Galloway Township for the schools, is it zero-based? I believe the finance gentleman should understand zero-based financing.
So I'll answer as much as I can, and then I'll turn to Mr. Kelly. Some of the details he would be better at. You asked about if we have a schedule or a list. Every school district was required to have a long-range facility plan that lists any major projects that you need to do, that you plan to do. We also had a federal facilities study completed by our architectural firm that details a variety of different things. I will tell you, we do not have all these projects on the schedule because we can never afford to do all of them. But every year there is a review as part of the budget development process to look at what projects need to be done, what ones can be done through the regular budget, and what ones we need to save for over the long term. Obviously, whenever the state puts that broad grant, regular operating district, which means non-AVIC, money out, that is extremely beneficial. That helped us get these recent projects finished, so I will make those comments. And so we do follow it to the level that we can afford, but I can tell you there are many facilities projects that we believe need to be done that we've had to put off or do piecemeal, to try to keep the tax rate down. In terms of the enterprise accounts, if you're asking, do we charge, like our food service program or our child care program, a fee to use the facilities? No, we do not. That is not part of our board's policy. I don't know if other districts do that, but we believe those programs benefit our children and our families. I know
just to make a comment on that real quick, because if you're not getting that levy, there's heat, there's lighting, those are costs, maybe minimal, I don't know, but summertime there's air conditioning. Those are costs that need to be recouped. So just food for thought, at least those type of operating expenses should be considered as part of a levy to return to the school district for our tax money that goes to help support it. Because while the parents pay for the vast, the users pay for the vast majority of that, there is a gap then that does exist that is not being collected. That's just
In terms of student enrollment, yes, it has gone down because of a lot of the factors that we have talked about in this area. And we have made adjustments in the budget in terms of reductions of staff and other things like that to match those student enrollment. As I mentioned earlier, in the budget presentations that we do from the winter to the spring, there is a lot more detail. We limited the number of slides, knowing that the audience would probably only have so much patience for information, but there is a lot more information, and every budget presentation we have ever done that has more detail is available on our website. Cost per student over years, no, we did not include that, but we do have that data. In terms of the 5.65, I think that's the number over 5 years, I will tell you, the zeros were in the earlier years of that, I believe it was a 6-year picture. And part of the reason for that is some of the facility needs and the implementation of these mandates.
But I was just trying to follow up on what another gentleman over here mentioned. He spotted it too. All right.
In terms of do we zero-based budget, we do a combination. Some things are zero-based budgeting. Other aspects of the budget are formula-driven. And what that means is we have calculated the cost per student to run each major content area, language arts, math, science, social studies, etc., at every grade level. And so the enrollment for that school and grade level is multiplied by that cost to simply deliver the instructional program that is in our curriculum that is required by the state. So some things are formula-driven and some things are zero-based. We run those numbers. When we get state aid, Mr. Kelly applies that state aid to the budget, and then we look, are we over the cap? If we are, we cut. If we are at the cap, many years, we still cut as directed by this Board of Education. We do not go to the allowable cap every year. Mr. Kelly, I'm sure there's things you do. I spent enough time running the budget, don't I?
Just a couple things, sir, I would like to answer. One of the questions about personnel, and it was previous gentleman. About 80 to 85% of our costs are fixed. Okay? Obviously, personnel is the largest one. Electricity, insurance. You understand that. We have the same bills as everyone else. They're pretty much fixed. So I want to do, there's not a lot of discretionary spending. The 5-year maintenance plan, something about a referendum or directive from the state, that's mandated by the state. We have to go hire architects to tell us what we got to spend our money on for the next 5 years.
I was asking you about the schedule.
Okay. So that was an issue. On the cost per student is on the New Jersey Department of Education website. So any year you want to see our student costs, they're on the State Department of Education website.
Okay, thank you. And I can assure you one thing, next budget cycle, I think you're going to have a lot of folks here that are going to be very interested.
We would hope so.
Thank you much.
One thing I do want to add, and this really should have been one of our slides. Our district entered into an energy savings management program quite a few years ago. It started under the previous superintendent and school business administrator. And through the work we have done with very specific tasks that are completed, controlling various aspects of energy, we have saved, Mr. Kelly said, $3 million. I don't want to give the whole number. More than $3 million, I believe, in a 6-year period. So that is something that actually should have been on the slide. And that's also an example where administrators wear many hats. Our facilities manager also does the work as the energy manager.
Any other questions? Please. There's still people talking, please.
Hello, my name is Anna Jesse, and I am a Galloway resident. I'm maybe a little bit older than some of you. I can tell you when my children went to school, first of all, we had a busing issue, where my kids were bused all over the place because of a racial issue. You remember that, Amos? All right. Secondly, we had a split session. And you know what was the most horrifying thing? My daughter went in the morning and my son went in the afternoon. Okay? There was no relief for me, for us working people at that time. While I feel bad for some of these people that have to work, I don't feel that the school should become their parents. I really think you need to start giving some of these parents the responsibility of their own children. Some of these after-school activities that I looked at that was printed in the paper, you're paying people $35 and X amount of change per hour for golf, for whatever. This is not necessary. We are drowning here, and we need help. Now, perhaps, which was a suggestion that I had, we should ask our delegates from District 9, Senator Connors, Rump, and Gold, to maybe come down here. And if the school board is willing, as the municipality may be willing, to meet with these delegates and try to have them intervene to the state for us and throw us a life raft, because we're going down there. To consider such a thing if it was feasible.
Well, I absolutely agree with you, Ms. J.
Yeah.
Okay, I agree with you. I'm more than welcome, on behalf of the Board of Education, if the representatives from District 9 would like to meet with us, we'd be more than glad to host this event here, and we would welcome our brothers in the municipality, Greater Lake Harbor Regional, for them to sit down and discuss with us how they can help us come up with the monies that we are entitled to, that we haven't been funded.
Okay, you're on.
Thank you.
My name is Zach Trucker. I've lived in Smithville now, I believe, 24 years. I didn't bring any children into New Jersey when I came here. My children, my grandchildren are all educated. I'm still paying taxes, and they're still going up. And I'm fed. I think I pay my fair share of taxes and educated mine and a lot of other people's children. I want to tell you what it was like when I went to school. I caught the school bus at 6 o'clock in the morning, the time I was 6 years old, till I graduated high school. And I got home at 6 o'clock in the evening. And I had to milk the cows before I went to school, after I got home. And I got my education. I think I've got a better education than what I see around here, with all the activities I have around. We just had reading, writing, arithmetic. We didn't have football and basketball. That was it. We didn't have air-conditioned schools and school buses. We had 2 running through our high school. A number of years ago, I did a survey of the school buses. The school districts I knew in California, where my children were educated, Tennessee, where I went to school, Florida, the district I know, and New Jersey. I did a survey of the per mile student costs for going to school in school buses. New Jersey was so far out of sight, it was just uncomparable with these other districts all around this country. So I know, we used to say, I tell my wife, we have a school bus jam here in Smithville. Buses coming into intersections, 4 or 5 of them at one time. I said, what's going on here? So that's why I did the study. I want to see why so many school buses were needed here in New Jersey, in our district. And I made a comment a few years ago told how long I worked that school bus. And one of our councilmen stated to me, well, if my child has to drive more than 12 minutes, I'm going to be the first one to complain. I'd like to know that you're part of the problem. So this is what we have in New Jersey. And I'm sitting here while we're going, I'm saying, gee, I'm getting kind of cool in here. I was thinking all of the heat being generated with all the people in here, the temperature would be more up. But apparently the air conditioning is going down. So I'm wondering, are all these schools being kept coolest all night long, or do we have some sophisticated thermostats around here that control this air conditioning? Because it costs a lot of money to buy a house, and I'm sure this big room here right here is costing a lot. So I'm wondering about all the ways that you people are looking at, and you, the superintendent, are I don't know. I'm running out of
If I may respond to 2 points that you made. In terms of the busing of students, state law requires that any child that lives more than 2 miles from the school or would have to travel on a hazardous road, we are required to provide transportation for those students. As I mentioned earlier, for years, our board did transport students we were not required to. And as the budget became tighter and as the board was trying to hold taxes down, we did eliminate most of that what is known as courtesy or safety busing. So the busing that you see means that those children on those buses overwhelmingly live more than 2 miles from the schools which they attend. In terms of the air conditioning, I can assure you we do have an energy management plan, and at a certain time of the day, there is a temperature control that automatically, if it's the cooling season, raises that temperature so it's not as cool. If it is the heating season, it lowers that temperature so it is not as warm. But when there are special events, such as tonight's board meeting, there is an override to that. So, and I will tell you, some of you may have been at an event where there was a miscommunication. If anyone was at the Reeds Road Cultural Fair this past year, there was a miscommunication between the school and the maintenance people. And there were hundreds of families and residents in Reeds Road School, and everyone was sweating because there was a miscommunication. So yes, we do have a system that normally does a set time.
Hi, Sandy Gamble. I live in Galloway. One thing that you said, any child that lives outside the 2-mile limit, does this apply to children in charter, private, or parochial schools?
I answered the question, yeah. Your question was the 2-mile limit for charter,
private or parochial schools.
The answer is yes.
Why?
That's the way of the laws of the state of New Jersey.
Why are my public taxes going towards private and parochial schools where people pay to send their children?
That's what the law states. And as Mrs. Jay so eloquently attempted, I think that is something that we might be able to address if we are able to hold this meeting together. That's a very specific area that we are required to pay to transport those students, even though those students are not attending public schools, for private charter public schools.
That's almost a challengeable offense in court, I think, because that doesn't seem right, that we should be paying public taxes to free children with their parents are actually paying for them. As a segue to that, I'm new to the area, and I've not come from an area where they bus children. Do the parents pay for the busing, or do the taxpayers pay?
Yes, the busing is part of the local school budget, so the parents do not pay. There are some districts that offer what's called subscription busing, So that would be, for example, if we had students within that 2-mile limit that wanted a bus, there is an avenue to offer that and have parents pay for that. But we do not honor that legality. So
What percentage?
all of the busing is paid through the local school budget.
What percentage of the budget, sir?
Off the top of my head, I'm not sure. If you want to drop me your information or send me an email, I'd be happy to provide it to you.
I will. Thank you, sir.
Good evening. My name is Martha De Armas. I live in Galloway. I have a comment to what this person just said. My children and grandchildren have attended private school with the sacrifice of mine and of my children. And they have not burdened the public system. It has been our choice to send them to Catholic education. The only thing they have gotten from our taxes paid to the state and to the municipality has been $200 or so as some kind of compensation for having to go further for transportation in order to get to school. I think that's a drop in the bucket compared to how many thousands of dollars all municipalities save with children that go to private and Catholic schools. For somebody to get ruffled about that little drop in the bucket of money compared to what these children are entitled to get in public school is really outrageous.
I'll just follow up. I will note the state law does mandate a maximum that we're allowed to spend per student to transport private school and charter school students. If the cost to transport that individual student exceeds $884 during the year, the school district pays what's known as aided wheel transportation, where we would actually pay the parent or guardian that $884 instead of transporting.
Good evening. My name is Nick Russo. I'm a Galloway resident. First of all, I just want to say this. There is in this country, it was built on the premise of the separation of church and state. My grandchildren, my son has 5. They go to a Catholic school in Massachusetts. The boys are going 15 miles to Bishop Stand, and my son's paying for not only their education, but also for their bus transportation. And it's a burden on him to get that done. So, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, it is, again, part of welfare state of New Jersey. When you look at what's going on in New Jersey, all the school districts that are taken over by the state, we are the ones that are paying for those educations, not the people who live there. We are. And if I sound angry, I am. I'm looking at, I'll be nicer than that previous gentleman, the fluff that's on here, okay? You're comparing numbers, $4 less than the state average. I am sure in that state average is the cost of educating the children in Jersey City, Camden, Newark, etc., which is much higher than the cost of us educating our students. So that, I don't believe, is a great job if you match it or average it out against what the other people are getting. And that's right down the line here. I'm looking at some other figures here. Let's get to the budgeted. The capital reserve. Some of the things I've been hearing over the last 2 weeks and going through a lot of these things, that you are held captive by the state in what you're being told to do and what you have to do. But I've heard some things that I don't understand, and maybe you could explain them to me. For instance, when you take your budget, you take it to the town council. The town council puts it together and puts it into the state. Is it true that if you're 2% under the cap, nowadays the state doesn't bother even to check it or check what you're doing? This is one of the things I've heard. Okay? That's fine. The other thing is, if you are under, and the state says your budget is not enough in the budget to educate your students the way we want to, you're under the cap, but we're going to allow you to increase what you're charging the town or the taxpayers. Is that true? That's not true either. Okay.
I'll let Mr. Kelly answer both of those parts.
Your first point about town council does not review review the local school district budget.
No, but they have to submit it to Trenton.
No, members of the Board of Education here who are elected officials.
Again, I want you to clarify these things that I've been hearing.
They vote on the school budget, and that's submitted to the State Department of Education, who also must review and approve or disapprove the budget. Your second question was, if I think I understood it, was we cannot reduce our total budget below an amount that the state might determine is not enough to educate children. Is that?
My understanding is if you submit, let's say, $10 million, and the state looks at it and say, no, with the programs we have in place and whatnot, there's room under the cap, we're going to let your budget be $11 million. Is there any truth to that?
There is what's known as the required minimum tax levy, where the State Department of Education runs a formula and comes up with a number that says the local school district should be funded by X number of dollars from the local tax levy. The Board of Education cannot introduce a budget with a tax levy below that number. That would be the only case that I would say might occur. Also, if the state were to come in here for some type of monitoring and say we were not being affected in some area, that might be enough.
Back in 2005, I was asked to join a committee down at Town Hall called the PUSH Committee to look at different taxations and whatnot for relief of the citizens of Galloway. And that's where I met Mrs. J. And at the time, I got to know Meg Worthington. She had initiated a lawsuit against the state for underfunding us. Whatever happened to that? I've got the lawsuit. I'll email it.
Okay, I've been board president for the better part of the last 12 years. This is the first I'm hearing of that. I do know in the 90s, we did get a large sum of money from the state. Rich Dave might remember. I don't even know if right like 97, but that was the last time or anything I can remember. But if Meg did file something on behalf, it wasn't on behalf of this Board of Education, because I'm not aware of it. Mr. Puccio, you've been our solicitor for 20 years.
It would not be on that on behalf of the board, it might have been by the township.
Okay. No, it's not.
Richard, you're part of that PUSH committee. I'll be more than happy to send you a copy of the lawsuit if you want to see it. Okay, I don't know if it'll do any good, but it is a fact. And in my opinion, we need more of that. If Trent is calling the shots, we don't have control over it, because it sounds to me that Trent calls the shots with everything that we're doing. We really, when we vote, it doesn't mean anything. You guys can say, okay, fine, this is a matter of semantics. Are you going to allow us to borrow the money? Okay, that's semantics. No, you were able to go out and get money for, raise your capital reserve from $450,000 to $750,000. Okay? Trent is controlling us. We've got to have the meeting, like Mrs. J says, so that we can start getting more money from Trent. Because if they're not going to give us the money, then they better stay out of our damn taxpayers' pocket.
Well, as I mentioned earlier, with the help of Mrs. J and Mayor Purdy, I know was in the back there somewhere, we will be more than glad to house and meet with the, I was here earlier, the District 9 representatives.
And another point that's really at the top of my list is the CRDA money. And recently the governor passed a law, or changed the law where instead of spreading it throughout the whole state, and it was, I remember there was $1 million given to the Fort Lee for a project. And now the money's all going to stay in Atlantic City. Well, if you looked at last week's paper, and you looked at the amount of employees that are working in Atlantic City, and live in Atlantic City, live in Pleasantville, live in our city, there's only like 1,000 less in here. We educate and support, with town services these people who live here. And I'm sure part of the people who are taking advantage of the after-school programs that are being paid to watch their children are children who work in Atlantic City. And I think it's about time that somebody went after CRDA to start getting our share of the people in these towns, because we are educating these people. I had a resident of Four Seasons who volunteered in 2005.
don't know if 35 is the number this year, but we have an increasing percentage of students who speak a language other than English. Spanish is the most commonly spoken second language. Gujarati, which is an Indian dialect, Cantonese, a Chinese language, and then there are smatterings of students who speak a number of different languages. The number varies by years, but it's generally in the double digits.
See, and the point I'm again making is I'm sure most of those children have parents who are working in Atlantic City. And again, it falls on the burden of taxpayers of Galloway to support these projects. The state is not paying that amount. We are paying that amount. And again, I think more has to be done to repeat something somebody else had said earlier, is to bring the factions. We can't just be the school board and sit here and say, we're the school board. We really don't deal with the county is this, the county is that. I saw a report from Dennis Levinson when he was giving a State of the County message in January, and he was highlighting why our county taxes went up. Our county taxes went up because of what's happening in Atlantic City. So we don't have a vote in Atlantic City, yet we're being taxed on. We don't have a vote in Trenton, so to speak, because they're dictating to us. Yet we're being asked to pay the bill. And I just think the factions have to come together. It has to be the county, the school board, and the town. To start putting the pressure on Trenton for us to get our fair share instead of having it going up to those other districts that are not really supporting our students. Thank you.
My name is Lucilla Guzman, and I'm a Galloway resident. I just have one question. Is there a state mandate as to what extracurricular activities be offered by the school?
Ma'am, there must have disconnect. Can you come closer or something?
I believe your question was, is there a state mandate as to what extracurricular activities the school district offers?
Yes. No, there are no state mandates regarding extracurricular activities. There are state mandates that govern things when you have extracurricular activities, related to rules about AEDs and if a concussion occurs and things like that. But the decision about extracurricular, that is one of the things that is a local decision. As we've indicated earlier, as a school district, we believe those things are very important for our students. No, they are not mandated.
So when we consider to offer the least expensive, so we will not be all burdened with this, like we have baseball, hockey, indoor hockey, all this iPad and things like that. Those should be taken by the family themselves. I was educated by my parents, and my parents put all the burden on themselves, not the state.
In terms of technology, the technology purchases come from two areas. Number one of the sets of standards for students in New Jersey are technology standards. There is an entire list of things that the school is responsible for teaching students. And it ranges from teaching them to be ethical users of technology to actually being able to use different types of technology, whether it be word processing, spreadsheeting, the list goes on and on. So the student's ability to understand and use technology is part of the state requirements under the technology standards. In addition to that, the new assessment that students will be taking starting this year needs to be taken on some type of technological device. In our school district, we are doing that with a combination of what I now call traditional computer workstations, laptops, and iPads. We have found that different technologies match different developmental levels of students. We do try to do bulk purchasing to save rates, and we certainly are not on a one-on-one situation. For example, this year at the elementary level, there will be 5 iPads for an entire classroom of students to share. There will be a laptop cart for, say, 130 students to share. But in terms of technology, the state doesn't tell you it has to be an iPad or it has to be a laptop, but the state does mandate technological learning and technological use.
I guess, yes, we have to provide the students the basic skills on how to use the technology, but we cannot give supporting them on a one-to-one basis. It's up to the parents if they want them to be technical savvy on those areas. And there are also schools which will provide it to them on higher education. It will be just basic introduction, and they can expand it on their own if they want it. But we cannot be catering to these kids and to the parents who are really putting the burden to the taxpayers. That's what I'm saying.
I will add one piece. The school district is not allowed to charge parents for mandatory parts of the curriculum. So we could not require, say, parents, all right, the new language arts materials cost $75 per child. Parent, you need to send $25. The school district is not allowed to say the children have to take the test on an iPad or a laptop. You need to buy one. We are not able to do that. If it is part of the required curriculum, the school district is responsible for paying for it.
Good evening, my name is Rose, and I am a resident of Galloway Township. How much of the maintenance and facilities is subcontracted out? And how many vehicles are charged back to the Board of Education? My career takes me out and about in Galloway, and I'm very surprised to see the number of trucks that are parked in front of homes at 10 o'clock at night. Why do these employees have to have vehicles? And what is the cost to the taxpayer? And again, for instance, who's cutting the grass? Is that all subcontracted out? I mean, we have maintenance people, we have lawnmowers. I know in Galloway itself that almost everything is subcontracted out because I did a little bit of investigation and made some people pretty angry. And that has nothing to do with the Board of Education, but the fact that they buy sod and they buy mulch. You know, we have a mulch place. And, we have a contract with the gardener when we have maintenance people in Galloway. And I'm wondering how does that apply to the school system. As I say, I'm shocked at how many white trucks there are parked in front of homes at 10 o'clock at night and on Saturday morning and Sunday afternoon. Why do they have these trucks? And to what cost? And how much more is our insurance? And again, how much is subcontracted out? The painting? I was pretty amazed at the cost of the roof. I thought that was astronomical for that school over on 6th Avenue. And again, that's something that's subcontracted out. How much is in-house?
I'll answer in general what I can, and then Mr. Kelly will answer. I will tell you, I guess we don't have every number. I will tell you, we do have an in-house maintenance group, and they each do have a vehicle. Some of them are general maintenance, some of them have specialized roles, for example, HVAC.
What was it you said?
HVAC, heating, ventilation, air conditioning. In terms of subcontracting, although we do a lot of our work in-house, there are things that we do bid out, but those things are all done through the bid process, and the school district is required to take the lowest bid. The roofing projects, for example, they were done through a sealed bid process, and again, we had to take the lowest bid. In terms of the vehicle cost, I don't know that off the top of my head. I'm not sure if Mr. Kelly could add. I will tell you, the maintenance vehicles are not for personal use.
Why are they in front of their homes all weekend?
Ma'am, let me answer. I do know a lot of the times, because I am in and out of the district over the weekend and in the evenings, those vehicles are parked at facilities, used to be the Oceanville School. There are times, particularly in the winter, when there is the potential of snow, that the maintenance people are allowed to bring those vehicles home so they can get back.
The rest of us that have to go to a job are not provided a vehicle in case it snows that we can get to our job.
Ma'am, the reason we would want them to be able to get back is because if it snows enough and their personal vehicle can't get them to the district, we need them to get to work to do the plowing. And that is not always the case. That is just one example.
So you're saying that probably January, February, possibly December, there would be a need for them to take it home. But now, June, July, August, when, as I said, I could tell you addresses because
I'll let Mr. Keller go on.
I prefer not to have addresses if you'd like to give them to me
No.
in private. I prefer that. I will say that there are a number of maintenance people who do take their district vehicles home on a regular basis, and that's because they are in essence on call 24 hours a day. Mr. Foley, our facility inspector in the back, is regularly in the district at 2 or 3 in the morning answering an alarm when an alarm goes off for the system, Mr. Timmerman. There's also
So one person would take their vehicle home, because if an alarm goes out, the entire facilities department
more
is
than
not
one.
at problem.
More than one. And then there are other employees who are responsible.
You know what? I'm wasting my time, because obviously I'm not going to get the answer. They're going to continue to have vehicles, we're going to pay for their gas to go back and forth to work, we're going to pay for insurance for their vehicles, which will sit in front of their house in case it snows.
I'm trying to answer your question, and I will just add one other point. Each maintenance individual who has a vehicle completes monthly a vehicle mileage log sheet. So we have a log of all the miles that are driven in that vehicle, both during the day and after hours.
To and from their homes.
In some cases.
In many cases. In most cases.
I mean, as Mr. Kelly said, if you have something that you think we need to know, that perhaps
I
you
told you
know,
what I think you need to know.
please contact us privately, and we will look into it.
And is it a contract for cutting the grass, or do the facilities or maintenance people cut the grass, cut the fields
Yeah,
out?
grass cutting is subcontracted out.
It's subcontracted
Yeah,
out.
for some time.
What do the maintenance and facilities people do? Do they paint?
There's some painting.
But some of it is subcontracted out?
Minimally.
Okay.
So I can think of items they're responsible.
I'm just trying to save some money, and I thought maybe it was something that you would overlook, because all we're trying to do here tonight is save some money, get some of our money back, and if you understand the frustration, and of course you're angry, same as you're gonna get angry at Christmas time if you see all the trucks in front of the gourmet because the taxpayers are paying for Christmas party for that. Some things just
I can assure you, ma'am, that no tax
Maybe
dollars
not.
go towards the Christmas fund.
maybe not for the Board of Education. Okay.
Please come to the microphone, state your name. Oh, I'm sorry. Ladies first.
My name is Terry Gabriel, and I'm a lifelong resident of Eastern Galloway Township. I do understand the frustration of the Board of Education vehicles because they do come home in winter, yes, and they do plow their driveways, they do plow their families' driveways, and I have witnessed it and seen it here in the event. Okay, so I don't know what kind of logs you're doing, but you better check them out. That's one thing. I have to pay for my driveway. I go out and plow it, I don't have a Board of Education truck to do it, unfortunately. I do have a question. You listed, what's going on with Oceanville School? Is it empty now?
Oceanville School is not a school facility at this time. It is a maintenance facility.
Can you store things and do things like that at that facility? Like paper?
Store things, you gotta be a little more specific.
Chain link fence sections, paper?
Yeah, paper is stored in a warehouse separately, but other than that, there are a lot of items that are stored in there.
And that warehouse, where's that warehouse at? Because that's a question that I have. There's a warehouse.
Off the top of my head, I don't know. I've never been in the warehouse.
Okay, there's a warehouse on the Anaheim and Lost Mill. And the Board of Education apparently does not own that, I guess. Do they own it? If you look at a website, it says that Galloway Township Board of Education owns the building. And the address is also somehow under an Absecon zip code. I don't know why that would be. So paper is stored out there. That's not climate controlled. Who owns the building and how long has the lease been?
Mr. Bowley shaking his head. It is not climate control. I don't know the individual that owns the building. I know the Board of Education does not own the building.
How long has this lease been for?
I can't answer that question.
I'm sure it wouldn't be anybody that has sat on the Board of Education at all, Galloway Township, or anything pertaining that way. I'm just wondering who owns the building, how much the lease is for, how long the lease is, what amount of rent is paid for this warehouse. Go ahead.
If you contact me, I'd be happy to give you any of that information that you were requesting.
Okay. It's not climate controlled. I can tell you that for a fact. The windows are busted in it. All the garage doors are the height of a loading dock. Are there any vehicles owned by the Board of Education that are high enough to back up at a loading dock and load stuff?
I'm looking at Mr. Bowley.
The warehouse also has ground level receiving areas. It has loading docks that is designed to track trails back up to it and unload them. And then there's lower levels. There are
sitting empty. Any building that was no longer usable for the school district was first closed and then was raised. That is South Egg Harbor School and Cologne School. Every other building in the district that the school district owns, Galloway Township Middle School, Reed's, Roland, Smithville, and Arthur Green Elementary Schools and Pomona Schools are all housed and being used with students. The only other facility is the Oceanville School, and that is, as previously said, for facilities and actually food service is there now as well.
Right, I didn't have a question about it. I just wanted to know what the Oceanville facility was being used for now. I know that you're not educating children in it. I was wondering if there was storage space there.
And I do want to, one of your comments earlier, ma'am, this Board of Education is required by law to fill out ethics forms, which are online. I can assure you that no one sitting on the Board of Education owns that warehouse.
Or previous?
I can't answer the previous, I can tell you sitting.
Okay, that was just one question. I'll come back another time. Thanks, my time's up.
You're welcome to come back anytime. Mr. Gillespie, I think you were on your way to the microphone.
Good evening. My name is Jamie Gillespie, and I just want to take a minute of your time tonight to thank the Galloway Township Board of Education for the opportunity to work here for the past 5 years. Earlier this evening, my letter of resignation was accepted, I assume. And I want to thank you for what has been a wonderful 5 years. I've had the privilege of working with so many great people who no doubt have helped prepare me for my own municipal job. So thank you very much.
Do you, or what site would you recommend that I can get a fair assessment as to what the ranking of the Galloway school system is in the state?
I have a hearing issue, although I have a hearing aid.
The question was, what source could one go to get the most accurate information on the performance and other factors related to the Galloway Township Public Schools?
Two responses. First and foremost, we do have a lot of information on our website, www.gtps.nj.k12.us. Additionally, on a regular basis, that website has an updated message from myself that gives a lot of information, but you are welcome to contact us at any time. We are available via email or telephone to provide you with whatever information we can about the school district.
And I think you can also, if I may add to Dr. Schwartz, the New Jersey Department of Education website, if you can work your way through that, then
if you go to the New Jersey Department of Education's website, which is nj.gov/education, right on the front page, one of the links says DOE data. If you click on that link, there's a plethora of information related to financial information, student performance information, other statistical information related to all school districts in the state.
Because what I saw today was it shows us we rank 235th in the state overall as far as the ranking of our school system. But again, those are individual sites that rank it. And just wanted to get something more specific because I want to see if we're getting the biggest bang for our buck as far as our education. I just want to say thank you. You guys did a great job here tonight and answering the questions. It has not been an easy time in this town. I was the chair, again, because she pushed me into it, with the senior advisory committee up in the new senior center. And I had the pleasure, I guess, of meeting with the Arch List. And at that time, the town was going in the throes of a $1.2 or $1.4 million deficit in our taxes, where at that particular point in time, we lost police. Our Department of Public Works people was cut from like 25 to 5. We're down probably 30 people. And the jobs were lost in town hall. Everybody has taken a beating here. And the residents also, not just the seniors. It also includes the kids. Because they're denied the services even from Public Works or the cops. Okay? And the parents in this town. All I think most people want is some sort of knowledge that you guys are taking the hit along with us, because we are feeling it and we're asking them to pay for it. And that's a great job. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to blow that one.
And Jesse, I want to also say thank you. You did a phenomenal job. You answered the questions as best as possible. I'm really going to try. We have some council members here, present here, and I'm going to give a push for them to reach out to the District 9 delegates to come down here. Another thing that I'm going to suggest to them is to put on our website the email to Senator Connors, Rumpf, and Gold, which I have, and I'll give to Susan Giacobucci tomorrow. I'm going to discuss that with her. And how about you guys getting online and start a little petition there? And start sending them some emails, the 9th District, that you would like them to come down and see what response you get. And ask them for a little bit of help. I'm sure, I can't speak for our council or our mayor. Our mayor had to leave. He had a previous engagement. But I'm sure that our council and our mayor is going to do everything humanly possible to try to help us with this situation. I feel very confident. And thank you again for your patience and for answering all our questions.
Thank you, Mrs. Cameron. Is there any other comments on the budget? Anything else does this board would like to move on with this agenda? Okay. Thank you. Okay, let's go around the horn for old business this evening, please. We'll start with Rich. Old business, new business. Let's combine this. We can move along.
I just want to thank everybody for showing up this evening, asking good questions, and I'm sure the answers sat right with you, I hope. Anyway, the one last thing I'd like to do, I'd like to promote a program that's on tomorrow evening at 9 o'clock called America's Got Talent. One of our 7th grade students who will be entering our 7th grade, Meredith Dean, in the semifinals. So let's boost the ratings of America's Got Talent and watch her perform. She's great.
George? Well, Mr. President, I promised I was going to be quiet tonight. I want to thank the people that came and the orderly manner that they spoke in. But I have some bad news for you. I've been saying this as long as I've lived in this state. That's 72 years from January. The only way you're going to change the problem with school tax is to change the way the schools are paid for. Other states do it. There has to be a different tax to get it off the property owner's back. And the only way you can do that, you can come to these meetings and talk to us and the council and whoever else. You have to petition the people that you vote for up there in Trenton to grow a set and change the tax structure in this state. That's the only way you will get this off your back. We can cut the intramural programs. That's about this much of the budget. We tried to explain to you, 85% of this budget is mandated to us by the state. Maybe next year we can have all the kids bring a roll of toilet paper and their own pencil. And that'll help. That's about all we're going to get charged. On that note, I will leave.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Dave? What?
I just want to say thanks to the staff members for coming to support the board as well. Thank you.
I do want to thank everyone for coming out. I understand the one thing we all have to understand, the people sitting up here, excluding both the superintendent and Elizabeth, we're all Galloway residents. Okay? We all are in this together. We're doing the best we can. Every year we go through this. Thank you. You're very true. We're volunteers. I heard a comment was relayed to me earlier that the Board of Education needs to stand up here and not get paid. We agree, because we don't. We'll give back our salaries. So the people that made that comment, you have our promise that we'll give our salaries back to the taxpayers of Galloway. Since we don't get paid, we are volunteers. We do our best. We think we've done our best. Numbers don't lie. You saw what we've done for you, and we'll continue to work towards that effort. In conclusion, then, I believe I have to go into closed session. Mr. Cappuccio? Closed session? Closed session, right. Is there any last minute public comments before I have to go into closed session? Okay.
Yes, I just want to make one comment. I think the superintendent did her homework. She had a lot of answers, and I thank you for that for coming out there and doing a good job.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate that comment. Okay, thank you. Okay, be it resolved that pursuant to 7 and 8 of the Open Public Meeting Act, the public meeting of the Galloway County Board of Education following subject matter is to be discussed in session of the board closed to the public litigation. As President District, we have mentioned this resolution to hand over to the public as soon as possible. I have a motion to go to close. All those in favor?